Good day, everyone. For today's topic, we will tackle about child labor. So, what is a child labor? Well, let's come first to see the definition and terms including the kinds and method. So, child labor. Child labor refers to any work or economic activity performed by a child that subjects him or her to any work or form of exploitation or is harmful to his or her health and safety or physical, mental, and psychosocial development. So according to IOL, the term child labor is work that deprives children of their childhood, their potential and their dignity, and that is harmful to physical and mental development. So as you can see, ang child labor po ay ito po yung mga batang nagtatrabaho ng wala pa po sa legal age, which is ito po yung mga 17 years old and below. Ito po kadalasan ay tinatawag po natin na minor. So sa ating bansa po, ang child labor po is laganap kung saan marami pong sa atin na mga kababayan na Pilipino o mga bata sa lansangan na mas binipili po nila na magtrabaho sa murang edad para po makatulong po sa kanilang mga magulang. Which is, that was the only way that they can see na para makatulong po sa kanila or para mayahon po yung pang-araw-araw po nilang pangangailangan. Which is definitely wrong pa rin kasi kailangan po ng bata is mabigyan po siya ng mga wastong pangangailangan, pag-aalaga at pagmamahal. At syempre, kailangan din po nila na makapag-aral na para po i-chase po nila yung dream nila at i-pursue po nila yung mga gusto po nilang marating sa buhay. So this time, let's proceed to the sum of the definition of child labor, which is culled from Republic Act number 9231 and 7610 and ILO Conventions 182 or the worst form of child labor conventions are as follows. Ito po yung mga sumusunod. Children applies to all persons under 18 years of age as provided under RA 9231. This is a modified definition of children under the Child Protection Law or RA 7610, which defines children to mean person below 18 years of age or those over but are unable to fully take care of themselves or protect themselves from abuse, neglect, cruelty, exploitation, and discrimination because of physical or mental disability of conditions. So, gaya nga po na sinabi ko kanina, ang child labor po is yung mga bata po na wala pa po sa mga tamang edad na nagtatrabaho na po, which is po yung mga under 17 years and below. May nabanggit po dito na may mga batas or institution po dito na sumusuporta, which is yung Child Protection Law or yung RA 7610. At sinabi rin po dito na hindi lang daw po yung mga batang menor de edad ang hindi po pwede or hindi po applicable na magtrabaho. Kasama na rin po dito yung mga PWD. Gaya po, yung mga po person with disabilities, kaya po ng mga pilay, pipi, bingi, yung mga hindi po talaga kayang magtrabaho. Yun po yung mga yon. Para na rin po makaiwas po sila sa pang-aabuso, pang-aaripusta, at saka po sa cruelty, exploitation, or discrimination. Ganun po yun. Kaya meron po pinatupad po itong batas na to para po sa mga yon at para po matulungan po yung mga bata or yung mga PWD na wag po silang pagtrabahuin. Child labor versus child work. Yes, of course, there is a big difference between child labor and child work. So let's see what are the differences between the two. So ito po 'yon. There is a big difference between child labor and child work. Child labor is characterized by an element of abuse and violation of child rights, while child work is necessary to teach a child to do some minor household chores without being exposed to health hazard, and all basic needs are provided by parents or guardians. So, yung child labor po, ito po yung pinagtatrabaho po nila yung mga bata na menor de edad, which is yung nagkakaroon po sila ng sahod or maliit na kita. While yung child work naman po is, ito po yung mas magaan po siya kumbaga po sa child labor. Dahil ang child work po is ito po yung mga bata na gumagawa po ng household chores, kaya po ng paglalaba, paglilinis ng bahay, pamamalansya, paghuhugas ng plato, at kung ano-ano pa. At nasa provision po sila ng kanilang mga magulang. So, this time, we will tackle naman po, or we will see naman po, the worst form of child labor, which is slavery and similar issues such as the trafficking of children, debt bondage, serfdom, children in armed conflict. So, yung number 1 list po dito is yung slavery. So, what is slavery? Slavery is where one person is owned by and made to work for another person without having any say over what happens to them. So, ito na nga po yung mga bata po na nagtatrabaho po sa ibang tao, which is, ang tawag po dito ng karamihan is po yung pang-aalipin. Gaya po ng pagtatrabaho bilang katulong or bilang kasambahay po. Yun po yung meaning ng slavery. So, the other one naman po is child trafficking. Child trafficking is the illegal trading, buying, selling, and movement of children for labor or sexual exploitation. Ito naman po yung mga bata sa mga daan, which is ito po yung mga nagbebenta po ng mga basahan, kandila, yung mga bata po sa mga street children po na pumupunta po sa atin, tapos magbebenta po sila ng mga rugs, ng mga sigarilyo, at saka kung ano-ano pa. Child trafficking po ang tawag doon. So, yung next naman po is debt bondage. Is forced labor, where work is exchanged to pay off loans that people cannot pay off with money or goods. Yung debt bondage naman po is ito po yung mga bata po na pinagpapalit po sila bilang kabayaran para sa mga utang po nila. Just like for example, yung nanay po is hindi po siya nakabayad ng utang sa isang tao. And then, ang ginawa niya pong paraan para makabayad po siya ng utang is pinapalit niya po yung anak niya bilang manilbihan po sa pinagkakautangan niya. Yun po yung debt bondage. So, yung serfdom naman po is when a person is forced to live and work on land belonging to another person, often with little or no pay. So, serfdom naman po, ito po yung mga pinipwersa pong mga bata na magtrabaho or manilbihan po ng lupa or sa kabila po, ganun, sa ibang tao, is kadalasan po hindi po sila binibigyan ng wage or ng sweldo, or binibigyan man po sila pero kakaunti lang. Yun naman po yung serfdom. And for the forced labor is when someone is made to work against their wishes. Itong first labor po is ito po yung karaniwan po na nakikita po natin. Yung pinapersa po yung bata na magtrabaho, which is ayaw niya naman po pero kinakailangan daw po, kaya sa pilitan pinagtatrabaho po yung bata. Ganun po yung forced labor. So next is the sexual exploitation of children, which is yung prostitution, pornography, or pornographic performances. So first, sexual exploitation is the mistreating, abusing, and or taking advantage of someone or personal gain and profit by involving them in prostitution or commercial sexual activity. Okay, just like for example, ito naman po yung mga cybercrime, mga ganun rin po na binibenta po nila yung mga sarili nila, yung katawan nila para mag-gain lang po sila ng profit, which is yun po yung tinatawag na sexual exploitations. And the other one naman po is yung prostitution, which is alam naman po natin kung ano po yung meaning nito. So, prostitution is the exchange of sexual activities for money. So, ito naman po yung karaniwang pong ginagawa or alam naman po natin na minsan talaga pong nakarumal-dumal po itong senaryo nito, pero ginagawa pa rin po talaga, may mangilan-ngilan pa rin po talagang gumagawa nito, which is labag po sa ating batas. Prostitution, ito po yung binibenta po nila yung sarili nila po sa ibang tao para maghin po sila ng profit or para po kumita sila. Nagawin po nila yung sexual activities na yon, which is very wrong. So, ito naman po yung mga iba. The involvement of children in illicit activities, for example, the production and trafficking of drugs. So, ito po yun. Number 1 is yung illicit activities are illegal activities or crimes. Second, trafficking is illegal trading, buying or selling, gaya po ng binanggit ko kanina. And third is children are also involved in other crimes as defined in national laws such as buying stolen goods, shoplifting, robbery, hijacking cars, theft and burglary. At po yung mga bata, nagnanakaw, ganun po, shoplifting, yung pumupunta po sa mall na hindi po sila nagbabayad, ganun po, tapos robbery, hijacking cars, theft, mga ganun po. Yun po yung mga karaniwan po na involved po ng mga bata sa panahon po ngayon. And next po is very common, ito pong street children. Street children runaways or children living in poverty are also used in organized beggary. Ito po yung mga namamalimos na mga bata na tinatawag po silang street children. Karaniwan po sa mga ito is wala na po silang mga magulang or sila po yung mga batang tumatakbo, ayaw po nila ipunta sa mga DSWD, ayaw po nila ipunta sa mga pangangalaga ng kinauukulan.
The short history of child labor. The child labor was started in the Philippines as early as 1922. The American colonial government established the very first set of rules and regulation regarding to this issue through an Act number 3071. It is an act to regulate the employment of children and women in shops, factories, and establishments to provide penalties and violations. Malinaw ang pagkakasabi dito na noong 1923 nagsimula ang child labor at during the pananakop ng Amerika sa Pilipinas, doon pa lamang nagsimula ang kauna-unahang rules sa child labor na sinasabi dito na ipinagbabawal ang mga bata na magtrabaho sa mga shops, malalaking tindahan na wala pa sa tamang edad. When the Philippines declared independence in 1946, all the existing laws was replaced by Republic Act 3071 and renamed Republic Act 695, and the implementation was entrusted to the Women and Minor Division of the former Bureau of Labor Standard in 1957. Sinasabi dito na pagkalaya ng Pilipinas sa kamay ng Amerikano ay ipinalitan agad ang mga batas ng RA 695 at ang pagpapatupad nito ay ipinagkatiwala sa Women and Minor Division of the former Bureau of Labor Standard sa taong 1957. In 1932, the Philippines enacted into law to codify its penal laws. They came to be known as RPC or Revised Penal Codes. This provision prohibits the employment of a minor less than 16 years old. And 2 years after the Philippines' independence from America, the Philippines have ratified a number of international conventions adopted by ILO or International Labor Organization relating to child labor. Noong 1932, nagpatupad ng batas ang Pilipinas upang maipakilala ang mga batas sa parusang ito. Nakilala sila bilang RPC or Revised Penal Code. Ang RPC ay mabisa pa rin hanggang ngayon sa ating bansa. During the martial law, a handful of presidential decrees were enforced concerning the child labor laws in the Philippines. The new decrees simplified the context of the provision of RA 679 regarding confusing age limits imposed by this law under any person between 14 and 18 years of age. sa panahon ng batas militar, isang presidential decree ang pinatupad hinggil sa mga batas sa paggawa ng batas sa pagtatrabaho ng bata sa Pilipinas. Mas pinasimple ng bagong batas ang mga komplikadong probisyon ng RA 679 patungkol sa nakakalito na age limit ng mga bata ay pinataw ang batas na ito sa mga 14 to 18 years old. Ang bagong batas ay hindi nagtagal sa loob lamang ng isang taon. The arguments to support the child labor in the Philippines. The children in the Philippines are the one who supports the child labor in the country. Why are some children supports the child laborhood in the country? The Philippines is known as one of the poor country in Asia. As we expected, the main reason of child labor in the country is poverty. Poverty is the most often cited reason why children work. Malinaw naman sa ating mga Pilipino na ang pagtatrabaho sa murang edad pa lamang ay bunsod na ng kahirapan. Ang mga bata na sumusuporta sa child labor ay sila yung mga batang mas pinili na lamang magtrabaho kaysa mag-aral dahil mas nakita nila na ang pagtatrabaho ay mas nakakatulong sa kanilang buhay dahil nakakatulong sila bumili ng pagkain. The arguments against the child labor. The government organization in the Philippines are against the child labor. These agencies are DOLE, DSWD, and CWC. These agencies jointly collaborate on the programs and actions that assure the prevention of more child labor cases and the protection of the children in the society. Ito yung mga agencies na nagtatayo ng mga programs like DSWD. Yung mga bata na pinupwersa magtrabaho ng kanilang magulang ay pwede nila itong kunin at alagaan. At itong mga agency na to, sila yung nagproprotekta sa mga bata at ini-educate nila yung mga bata na mas mahalaga ang pag-aaral kaysa sa pagtatrabaho.
So this time, let's proceed to legality or related laws. So ito naman po yung mga batas or yung sumusuportang batas dito po sa child labor. So ito po yung isa, which is yung Article 137, Minimum Employable Age. Meron pong tatlong klase yan, which is yung A, no child below 15 years of age shall be employed except when he works directly under the sole responsibility of his parents or guardians, and his employment does not in any way interfere with his schooling. Ito naman po yung mga sinasabi po nila na bawal pong magtrabaho yung bata na below 15 years of age. Bawal po silang maging employer or such employed. Maliban na lang po, sinabi po dito na magtatrabaho siya directly under the sole responsibility of his parents. Maliban na lang daw po kung may consent po yung kanyang mga magulang or guardian. And his employment does not in any way interfere with his schooling. Wala daw po siyang karapatan or obligasyon wala po siyang pananagutan sa kanya pong pag-aaral. Yun po yung sinasabi po dito na bawal po yun. So, yung letter B naman po, any person between 15 and 18 years of age may be employed for such number of hours and such period of the day as determined by the Secretary of Labor and Employment in appropriate regulations. So, ang sinasabi naman po dito, sinabi po, any person between or pagitan po ng 15 to 18 ay pwede naman daw pong magtrabaho. Pero po, limited hours lang po yun. Limited hours and such periods of the day. Sabi po dito, and determined by the Secretary of Labor and Employment in appropriate regulations. Syempre, may mga regulations din po tayong sinusunod. Din po yung sinasabi ng letter B. So, let's proceed naman po for the letter C. Ang letter C naman po, the foregoing provisions shall in no case allow the employment of a person below 18 years of age in an undertaking which is hazardous or deleterious in nature as determined by the Secretary of Labor and Employment. Yun po yung sabi po ng letter C. Sinabi po dito na the foregoing provisions shall no case. Wala pong kaso ang pwede pong i-allow sa employment po ng tao below 18 years of age. Gaya nga po ng paulit-ulit ko po sinasabi kanina na about po sa child labor, which is hazardous or deletions in nature. Sinabi po dito na hazardous or deletions, it means po mapanganib. Mapanganib po in nature as determined by the Secretary of Labor and Employment. So, yun po yung sinasabi po ng letter C. So, let's proceed to another article or another related laws. So, ito naman po yun. Article 138, Prohibition against Child Discrimination. So, what is this all about? Sinasabi po dito na, no employer shall discriminate against any person is respect to terms and condition of employment on account of his age. So, ito po sinasabi po dito na kailangan ho talaga na dapat nasa wastong edad po na magtrabaho ang isang bata. Dahil sinasabi po dito na no employer shall discriminate against any person in respect to terms. Kaya po ng pagrespeto po daw ng terms and conditions of employment on account of his age. Yun po yung sinasabi po ng Article 138. So, let's proceed naman po sa legislative enactments. So, ito po yun. Republic Act Number 9231, an act providing for the eliminations of the worst forms of child labor and affording stronger protection for the working child, amending for this purpose Republic Act Number 7610 as amended, otherwise known as the Special Protections of Children Against Child Abuse, Exploitation and Discrimination Acts. Nabanggit ko na rin po to kanina. Sa una po, ito po yun, yung Republic Act 9231, kaya nga ho nang binasa ko, was assigned into law on 19 December 2013. It means po, pinirmahan na po itong law na to noong December 19, 2013. Kaya, ito pong law na to is is proven na po to. Sinay na po siya. Nakarating na po to sa husgado. Kaya nararapat na rin po ito na sundin ang batas para po sa ikabubuti po ng lahat.
Pagja-jumper kung tawagin ang pangangalakal sa truck ng basura. Naabutan naming ginagawa ito ng ilang kabataan sa Quezon City.
Binibigay ko sa yung iba. Sa magulang ko.
Sa kapatid ko po, yung iba. Ako na binibili ng pagkain.
Sa datos ng Philippine Statistics Authority noong 2011, 2 milyong kabataan edad 5 hanggang 17 taong gulang ang kabilang sa mga nasa delikadong trabaho.
Yung child labor, any form po yan ng trabaho, economic activity na pwedeng isubject sa abuse or exploitation ang bata at nakakasama sa kanyang safety.
May mga bagong anyo na rin ng child labor ang binabantayan ng DOLE.
Yung own use production. Ibig sabihin, ultimately, yung pinoproduce ng bata ay for the consumption of the household.
Kabilang din sa babantayan ang mabibigat na trabaho na maaaring matagpuan sa unpaid training work gaya ng work immersion at volunteer work. Ang dating child laborer na si Naomi, malaki ang pasasalamat sa tulong na natanggap noon.
Huwag nilang sayangin yung tulong na binibigay kasi isa yun sa mga stepping stone para magbago yung buhay nila.
Bukod sa suporta sa pag-aaral, maaaring magbigay ng kabuhayan ang BWSC sa pamilya ng child laborer.
Binabantayan ngayon ng Department of Labor and Employment, DOLE, ang mga umano'y bagong anyo ng child labor. May 2.1 milyong kabataan na nagtatrabaho ayon sa datos ng Philippine Statistics Authority, PSA noong 2011. 2 milyong kabataang nasa edad 5 hanggang 17 ay nasa hazardous working condition o mga delikadong trabaho ayon sa PSA. Ayon po sa balitang ito, napapabalitaan po na may mga batang nagtatrabaho sa mga delikadong paraan para lang po mabuhay sila at mabigyan po ang matustusan yung mga pangangailangan nila na hindi po maibigay ng mga kanilang mga magulang. So, may mga bata po na nagtatrabaho, nangangalakal po para po maibigay yung dapat na ang magulang po ang nagbibigay sa kanila. So ayon po sa balitang ito, may binibigay po ang gobyerno or may project po ang government sa mga child labor na gumagawa po sila ng isang project na kung saan po ang mga ganitong klase po ng mga bata na hindi po nakakapag-aral dahil po sa hirap ng buhay ay magbibigay po sila ng tulong financial sa mga kanilang magulang at ganoon na rin po sa mga bata na gusto po makapag-aral. Ito po yung statistics about child labor. First po is globally the incidence of child labor decreased from 25 to 10% between 1960 and 2003 according to the World Bank. Nevertheless, the total number of child laborers remains high, with UNICEF and ILO acknowledging an estimated 168 million children aged 5 to 17 worldwide were involved in child labor noong taon po ng 2013. So, ganun po kalaki at karami yung involved po sa child labor, 168 million po. Sa US, by 1930, ang estimated child labor po doon ay below 5%. So, this level po was not reached in Italy until around 30 years later in 1960. So, ganun po kababa yung kaso po ng child labor sa US ng taon po ng 1930. And next po, following a reported spike in employment during First World War po noong 1914 to 1918, ang childhood labor appeared to fall approximately po ay nasa 6 to 7% of children are aged 12 to 14 in England and Wales. So, 6 to 7% po ang nagtatrabaho from 12 to 14 age sa England and Wales noong First World War po. And taon niya po ay 1914 to 1918. And next po, noong Second World War, taon po noon ay 1939, the incidence of child employment appeared to slow under spike by 1944. This had increased again to 15.3% of 12 to 14 years old. So, nung dumating na po yung Second World War, noong 1939 po, nag-increase po yung kaso ng child labor and ang percent po nito ay 15.3 at ang edad po ay 12 to 14 years old. According to 2011 census, India reported 43.53 lakh children working as laborers. About 52% po ng mga bata sa India ang nagtatrabaho sa ng taon pong iyon at matatagpuan po ito sa 4 na states kung saan po sa Uttar Pradesh leading with 8.96 lakh child laborers, followed by Maharashtra 4.96 lakh and Bihar 4.51 lakh and Andhra Pradesh 4 lakh. So ang 1 lakh po ay ang unit niya po ay tumataginting po ng 100,000. So ganun po kalaki at karami yung mga batang nagtatrabaho po
sa panahon po iyon sa India. And ang equivalent po ng 43.53 lakh ay dito po sa Pilipinas ay nasa 209,279,181 pesos. So, ganun po kalaki at kadami ang mga nagtatrabaho po ng mga bata sa India. Almost 52%, almost half po ng mga bata sa India ang nagtatrabaho sa panahon pong iyon. And last po ay the Philippine Statistics Office also said nearly 50,000 of 4% of about 1.4 million Filipino domestic workers are minors. Ito po ay updated siya ng December 8, 2020. So, 50,000 po, 4% po sa 1.4 million Filipino domestic workers na minors po ang nagtatrabaho na ganun po ang edad.
So this time naman po for the moral judgment, para po sa akin, child labor must needed to end up. As a student and a future educator, I do advocate that every child in nation must have given a chance to study and chase their dreams. Poverty is the most hindrance why some children end up working at a very young age. I saw a lot of homeless children at the street working for their daily life, which is a hurtful sight seeing. Every child has an audacity to speak for their rights, to shape and mold their own desire by pursuing their dreams. I do agree that child is a precious gift from above, so that treat them well, give them all the love and care that they deserve. For every family, parents are obligated to send their children to school to study and learn. Education is the key to success. Then, every child will no longer be homeless. Ito po ang para sa akin, ito po ang moral judgment ko na kailangan na po talagang itigil ito pong child labor na sinasabi po. Dahil para po sa akin na bilang kabataan, bilang youth, or bilang student, as a future educator, as a pre-service teacher, na I do advocate po na sana po na matulungan po yung mga street childrens or yung mga bata po na nagtatrabaho para po sa kanilang panghanap buhay, pang araw-araw na pangangailangan. Which is very wrong po, na dapat po sana ay nandun po sila sa eskwelahan at nag-aaral at para chini-chase po nila yung dreams nila or pinapursu po nila yung dreams nila. Pero hindi po yun nangyayari dahil na rin po sa kahirapan na rin po ng ating bansa. Na yun po ang pinaka main cause po kung bakit marami pa rin pong Pilipino, marami pa rin po tayong kababayan na hindi nakakapag-aral. Which is, meron pong rights or meron pong karapatan ang every bata or every children sa buong mundo na dapat po kailangan po silang mag-aral at maibigay po lahat ng kanilang pangangailangan. Kaya nga po, nag-organize din po sila yung mga ibang batas na meron po silang tinatawag na family planning, which is yung family planning po is very helpful naman po talaga na dapat na rin po talaga na sundin po ng nakakarami. Kasi dito po, ini-engage po ng every parents or sineseminar po sila kung paano po talaga magpalaki ng tama or i-build up yung kanila pong family, which is kailangan po nilang i-provide ng parents yung mga daily needs po ng family or the whole family, especially po para po sa mga bata. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat.
My moral judgment. Child labor is the fundamental reflection of poverty and weak economic institution. In our country, poor families supports child labor, particularly in some provinces. Working at a young age is not a new thing here. Most of children are not forced by their parents, but they are forced due to poverty. They want to earn money to help their parents to buy necessary things for them. Even though child labor has an enormous impact on child health and high risk of injury, the poor children chose to go to work rather than go to school. As a future educator, it is hard for me seeing a child working around the streets with barefoot. If we saw a child working, we are free to educate them that in a young age, there are things that they must prioritize, their studies and their playtime to enjoy their childhood. We must not forget that the youth is the hope of our nation.
Kung ating po mapapansin, ganun po kalaki yung porsyento ng mga child labor dito sa Pilipinas, hindi lang po sa Pilipinas kundi sa iba't ibang lugar. Sila po yung mga batang hindi po nabibigyan ng pagkakataon na makapag-aral ng tama dahil nahahati po yung oras nila sa trabaho at sa kanilang pag-aaral. So, tayo po na nabigyan po ng opportunity na makapag-aral nang wala pong sagabal, sana po huwag natin po itong sayangin, bagkus patuloy po natin itong payabungin at pagyamanin dahil ang edukasyon po ay napaka-importante po sa panahon natin, sa panahon po natin ngayon. Kung may nakita man po tayo mga bata na ganon, kung makakatulong po tayo, why not po, diba? Sabi nga po nila, it's better to give than to receive. Kahit sa simpleng books na mga hindi po natin nagagamit, like, ibigay po natin sa kanila, malay po natin na ito po pala yung way para mas pursigihin pa po nila yung kanilang pag-aaral kahit na po sila ay nagtatrabaho sa ganun pong edad. So, yun lamang po.